Okay, good morning, afternoon, or evening for many of you, depending on when you watch this video. I'm going to review the movements for today's workout. The workout will be posted below in the video, and feel free to reach out on Discord if you have any questions regarding what we're about to talk about. It's just me today, so I'm just going to review the movements and leave it there. And hopefully you can warm yourselves up or gently move your bodies before getting into any loaded exercises. So our movements, I'll go over the workout verbally first, and we'll talk about movements second. We're going to do 3 sets or rounds of 8 per side goblet squats, followed by a lateral lunge in one direction. You're going to switch sides on the second rep. You're going to, 8 per side goblet squats, lateral lunge, one direction. Stay on that side for 8 before you switch. Followed by 10 controlled shoulder taps from a bear plank position. So ultimately we're looking for control. Speed is helpful, but only to a point. So you don't want to go super fast. And of course, if you need rest, you can rest at any point within that set of 10. Repeating that cycle 3 times. The second portion is going to be 4 to 5 rounds, depending on fatigue, capability, as well as time. What's your time constraint? Of 10 Romanian deadlifts. Ideally, we're carrying 2 weights if possible, or kind of one heavier one, if that's your only option. Followed by 5 Renegade rows. So we'll talk about what that looks like. First and foremost, of course, we have our goblet squat. That's when we're carrying our weight, whether it's a dumbbell or kettlebell. It's a single weight, okay? Keep it from the hips down here. So I have my kettlebell here, or dumbbell here. I'm gonna have it on my chest. I'm gonna squat down. Right knees over the toes, my chest stays up. So it's from the side, looks like this. Here, my chest is relatively high. If I had a name tag, you should see it. The lateral lunge, so 1 rep will be squatting down. I'm gonna step to my right, then come back to my squat position. That's 1. Step 2. Now, of course, if you need to, you can take the weight out for this lateral portion or all together, right? And to repeat the opposite side, that was 2 reps on my right, 2 reps on my left to be squatting down, squatting. Now you notice my squat depth is going to vary as I go to the side. So I'm going much lower with 2 feet than I am with 1, which is absolutely fine, okay? So that was a total of 4 reps completed, 2 per direction, right? Ideally, we're doing 8 per side. From here, we have 10 controlled shoulder taps from a bear plank position. Slightly more, I say mildly challenging compared to a traditional plank. So ultimately the tap can be, from my plank position, could be same shoulder or opposite. I tend to go opposite, same is fine. It'll look something like this. You're gonna be in your so play tabletop position. My knees will be off the ground by 1 inch or 2, not super high where the hips are up. And you're gonna go ahead and try not to move the low back too much. It's okay if it moves a little bit. And push the floor away and tap. Flow shift is fine, as long as it's not shifting a ton. Then you should be close to the ground, but not on the ground. And a total of 10 taps. I like to preload. So if I'm lifting at my left hand, I like to preload my right a little extra. So I'm kind of pressing it a little harder. If you're hypermobile, maybe don't. But for everyone else, we're going to preload that supporting arm. Okay, so we're doing a total of 10. Each rep or tap will be 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Our last 2 movements are the Romanian deadlifts. These can be with kettlebells, dumbbells, or anything you have in hand. If you don't have heavy enough weights, you can absolutely go single-legged. To make it more challenging, I've done plenty of those if you need to look at videos in the past, but ultimately, the Romanian deadlift is going to be, I have 2 weights in hand. These are very light. I would go heavier. I could, okay? Feet are shoulder width. You can't quite see it, but here we are, right? Shoulder to hip width. Hips go to the side. I'm sitting my hips back, my chest stays up. I'm gonna go as far as my hamstrings will allow me to go. I'm not going all the way to the ground if that changes my back position. So for some people they can, for me it's about here. That's where my hamstrings and hips stop. Then to stand, excuse me, butt. Breathe in as you go down. Breathe out as you stand up. And repeating this process a total of 10 times. Now, if the weights are heavy enough, and hopefully they are, the shoulders should have to work a little harder to stabilize weights, and that's a good thing. If you feel like your shoulders rolling forward, you can't control your chest position, let's go down to 1 and carry it between both hands. And then finally, we have our Renegade rows. So a Renegade row, there's a few variations of this. I'll show you both. Some have a push-up, some don't. So ultimately, it is a row from a plank position. A row is a pulling position. And it would be the equivalent of doing a bent over row, kind of. But instead of having our hand on a bench, we have our hands on a dumbbell or kettlebells. Although kettlebell's a bit tricky, so dumbbells are ideal here. This is actually where I'll talk about substitution if you don't have set of dumbbells that are appropriate. The weights don't have to be heavy for this. 10 pounds is plenty for me. Push-up version. I'm going to be in my plank shape. My hands are my dumbbells. I'm doing my push-up. I do not touch the ground. I just need to break the level of the dumbbell. If you want to do a deficit push-up, you can't touch the ground. Of course, you can always use your knees. If you need to, that's my push-up. Now the Renegade row part of this is going to be, I'm going to preload that arm, just like the bear crawl or bear plank, and then row. So elbow is going back towards my hip, bring it down, and repeat on the other side. That's 1 rep with a push-up. You just want to do the row portion of this. Still good exercise. You don't want those hips moving, just like the bear plank. So I'm trying not to shift my hips back and forth. So ultimately, if we're not doing the push-up, it's still a row. It's still a bit challenging. Today, if it moves a little bit, I'm trying not to, right? So each row, right, left, is 1. And you're completing a total of 5 of those. Push-up is a bonus. If you don't have dumbbells or an even set of kettlebells, again, that's a little more challenging on the wrists. You can always just do your push-up and then do your shoulder taps, again, with that controlled motion. So that can become more this, or here, push up, knees are fine. Bend your knees, back to your plank shape, and then tap, hold 1, tap, hold 2. Okay. Or if you want to get a little fancy, you can tap, 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 right? So you can change that pattern. Ultimately, we have 3 times through for the first portion, 8 per side. So you're squatting down 2 feet, taking a step to your right or your left. You're going to repeat this process 8 times, rest, and repeat it to the right, or vice versa. Followed by 10 controlled shoulder taps from a bent knee or bear crawl position. Excuse me. Resting as needed within these sets or within the reps. Use common sense, please. 4 to 5 rounds, depending on time, fatigue, or just general need of 10 Romanian deadlifts, ideally with 2 weights if possible, or 1 heavy one, followed by 5 Renegade rows with or without a push-up. So I encourage a push-up, but if you can't or it's too much, don't. It's challenging enough, or it should be. You can, of course, do a push-up with a controlled shoulder tap at the top instead. So that can be a substitution for anyone who does not have 2 dumbbells. I will look at my Discord as often as I can. Feel free to reach out, and I can always post some follow-up videos if we need some more specific instruction, but I'll post as needed. Thank you for your time. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye.